Okay, gear acquisition syndrome is a real thing, but it's probably just another term for when retail therapy goes awry. You know, that dopamine kick you get from a new purchase? And if you're a camera person, you're probably talking about lenses and the endless supply of lenses and that bottomless pit of desire for them. And for me personally, I didn't have a macro lens, and it felt like I was missing a limb. So I became obsessed, as one does, endlessly scrolling Facebook, Marketplace, eBay, Amazon, your mom's garage sale. But then I saw these, a quick $30 fix. It seemed too good to be true. And an add-on that turns any lens into a macro lens? But like I said, I was desperate, so I needed a hit. So I took a chance on these newer macro extension tubes. Why? Because I needed macro. But why? I didn't know. I do know now, but I just knew I didn't have one. Yet, what I did have, and I think most of you have, is a kit lens, right? So I got my 28-60 with my Sony A7C for an extra like $200. And it's a great compact zoom that I honestly just never use. At its fastest, the f4 is usually not enough separation for me. And yet, what I later learned is that it's usually too open for macro photography. So let me get right into it. This newer macro extension tube set comes with both the 10 and 16mm extension ring with electronic connection. So you could autofocus, but I don't recommend it. And you could use each extension one at a time, but I stacked them. So what I did through a lot of trial and errors, I found the distance and the aperture that best helps me find focus up close. And for whatever reason, with signs I don't understand yet, I couldn't get it to work on my 20, my 24, my 50, or my 85. But on my kit lens at roughly 38mm with both the 10 and the 16 on, leaving me at roughly like 64mm, and between f-stop 8 and 5.6, it worked perfectly. It was much easier nailing focus, like I was saying earlier, with f8 and above. But then you needed more light and you get more noise and it's less of an interesting shot. So I wound up using the 5.6 most often, which when you're magnified that close, the effects looks more like f1.2 or lower, which is why nailing focus is that much more difficult. So what I do is I have my focus peaking turned on and the color to red, which makes it much easier to see even if the screen is reflecting sun, because again, you're gonna need a lot of sunlight, so you get a lot of reflection. So you can still see whether or not you're in focus with the flashes of red displayed if you're in fact nailing it. But my user experience may not be yours, and I can only vouch for the extension tubes for someone like myself who is a novice and also a budget conscious one at that. So I think unless you're specifically wanting to get into macro photography, then just buy a proper $600 to $800 lens. But for most of you, I think this is a great way to see either if you do want to get into macro prior to making a big purchase, or if you'll find like I did, this is enough for me. This fills in that bottomless pit of needs just a little, just a micro amount of fulfillment. But the biggest surprise is the unexpected effect I was getting with this Frankenstein of the lens. As I thought maybe, I'll just do some future product shots, or maybe I'll see some random bug that I want to see up close. But what I found is that you get these great artistic extreme close-ups that if you're a filmmaker just opens up your shot list or your possibility of shots that you can use. In my intro to this, that turning of the spigot was the first shot that inspired me to film that whole bit. And I think it would have been a boring shot as is, but because it was an extreme close-up, it made it that much more interesting. So I think it just ups your photography and videography game by giving you more originality and variation to put into your projects. So the first thing that I actually shot that I was going to use for this intro was this, and it reminded me of like a drone establishing shot that you might see on some alien planet in a sci-fi as the title card gets displayed, which is something I don't think I've ever seen before, and maybe for good reason. But I love it and I'm hooked, so I think now I've permanently turned my kit lens into a macro lens. So I hope this helps you with your future purchases and saves you, like it did for me, another costly venture into the pits of retail therapy hell. And I just want to thank you for your time and attention, and please consider liking and subscribing. It helps me out way more than you know. Okay, love you guys. Bye now.